Alright, what is poppin', people? We're back. And today, Smogon Championship League Week 1. I believe, what even is today? Sunday, I think? Yeah. So, Week 1's concluded, all the NU games are done, and I wanted to go over them because I like looking at NU games, and because SCL is probably going to be where we see the most meta development. I think it'd be pretty cool to look at these games, see how they went, and just talk about maybe some of the trends that we're noticing. Now, disclosure, I've only watched some of these games, so some of the commentary I'm going to give is going to be maybe a bit more speculative as we're going through the replay, whereas with other games I think I'm going to have maybe a little bit more that I could actually comment on the turns, be like, oh, but this happened here. Anyhow, y'all get the drift. So anyhow, first game up here, we got Hoenn confirmed versus Cashalos. Now, coming into this game, Cashalos was really heavily favored. Hoenn has been really good in singles tournaments, but in Team Doors he's been a bit more shaky. His Smoke on Snake Draft performance last year was, I'm trying to remember, I think he went 2-5. So not very inspiring, whereas Cashalos is a real household name. He's been pretty dominant in lower tiers through the entirety of his time. And like I said, overall, he's just really viewed as a really proficient player. So, if we're looking at the predictions thread, while people did bet on Hoenn, and I think I said this in the little NU cast that I did with Maryberry, Finch, GW, and Awen and Oathkeeper, I think that was everyone there. I noted that there were still a decent amount of people betting on Hoenn, and I said, okay, maybe it's Homer syndrome there. Because people love to always root for the person that does frequent the tier more. But I didn't think it was like an unreasonable read, because Hoenn plays this tier a whole bunch. And while I feel like Cashalos has really good support, you know, at the end of the day, you can always get caught off guard by something. So looking at these teams, they're really similar. I mean, we're going to break it down into a really, like, very simplistic way of looking at it. Both teams have, like, especially defensive steel type with good offensive presence. Both teams have a Celebi. Both teams have a Tyrantrum, a ground type Stealth Rock Center, a fast fire type, and an, well, some last one. I mean, there's not really much to say about Scrafty and Badtine. I guess both kind of check special attackers. It's really the only thing I can say about those that's too similar. But looking at the game, right? One of the things that I thought when I first saw this preview is, wow, both people loaded up Tyrantrum. And they were both rewarded with facing against a ground type. Sinnoh in particular, I'm going to probably bounce between calling him Hoenn and Sinnoh because he goes by both. But Sinnoh in particular kind of got scuffed here because Palisand, that's a ground type with recovery. At least the Mudsdale, it doesn't have wish support, and it's a mon that, you know, if you maybe CC each time it comes in, you're looking at a good spot. Unless it's rest, it isn't going to have recovery, so that would be pretty decent for you. But I'm just looking at this game and I'm like, okay, Hoenn is essentially playing as 5v6, is he not? How do you expect to ever overwhelm the Palisand? Well, let's see how he tries to do it. So as we look at the lead, we see it a Scavalier lead and a Palisand. Now, something we actually get really shocked by here is this SD as Scav just coming out and boosting up immediately. And Cashalos' response is to sack the Palisand. I was really shocked by this play. And right when I saw this, I was just like, oh, does this Tyrantrum win now? Because I don't know the set yet, but potentially really good. And on the next turn, essentially Cashalos goes out to the Talonflame here. We see Hoenn go for Protect. Just trying to scout out what this wants to do, be it go for Wisp, Flare Blitz. We actually see the sword stats immediately. Now this lends me to think that this is maybe a Gale Wings Talonflame actually instead of Flame Body. And probably an offensive one at that. And so Cashalos has actually gotten back a fair amount of pressure, right? The Mudsdale's going to take 5 million from this, and we're going to be looking at probably a damage roll here on whether Bravebird KOs, but we actually see a crit. So now both teams' Tyrantrums within the first 6 turns are really freed up a whole bunch. Now, Hoenn goes Celebi here. Now, when I saw that, I immediately went, Perdevos? What is this? I'm thinking this is a Scarf Celebi. We don't see it take Life Orb Recoil, spoiler there. And it took Rocks. So I'm guessing he was trying to revenge kill T-Flame there, just with a fast sidekick. And he's met with the Raj. Now, there's a good mid-ground play there with the Stone Edge. It hits anything that maybe would have tried to pivot in on the slam. And we're going to see Cashalos again play really aggro with this T-Flame versus the Scav as Hoenn goes for a Protect. And then we see a double into the Scrafty as the Mantine comes out. Now, I don't really know what the Scrafty is supposed to do from here. I mean, we're going to see a knock on the Mantine, but overall, the Mon's not too important this game. And we do see Cashalos still get the T-Trim in, and we are going to see something die here. Again, neither team has either ground type left, so both of these Tyrantrums are going to make a lot of pressure. Are going to be able to exert a lot of pressure. And again, we see here, Cashalos does a Scarf Celebi, take advantage of it, go to his own Celebi, and we actually see a plot immediately up. Now, and the U-turn also just confirms for sure it's Scarf. Now, when you went Celebi, honestly, I said out loud, I was like, I swear if I see Shadow Ball come out here, I'm going to be upset. I don't think it would have made too much sense since he already revealed Earth Power, so that's just kind of his move that he's saying, okay, I'm going to hit your Bronzong, because I know if you run it, you're going to be Heat-proof, not Levitate. But we see the Celebi pick off the Mantine there with his boosted Psychic, and he's forced into Scrafty there, check this Celebi, just because he doesn't want to have the Copper take a rogue hit. And we're actually seeing this Lazzle boost up, and we see it sashed. I was actually a little surprised by that, because normally if you see a sashed Salazzle, it's on a team with better hazard removal. But I knew here, I knew if Hoenn was setting up versus Scrafted, he was definitely overheat. So we see a good play from Cashalos to sack this Celebi of his. And now what we see is essentially, Hoenn actually outlined this really well in his post. He said what he wanted to do is get T-Trim in versus the Talonflame, force it to kill off, I think he said Salazzle. It actually ends up being the Celebi here. But we see here, yeah, this is a DD T-Trim in the back. And there's nothing that Cashalos could do. I don't think he was Flame Body, since he revealed Offensive Talon. Those are pretty much always Gale Wings. And we see because he let his Palisade go down so early, he has nothing that can stop this Tyrantrum in the back. And Hoenn picks up what most people are going to say, an upset victory. It's a very slim win. A very slim win. And I do think a lot of this did come down to maybe Cashalos not playing the game super well around that early couple turns. But I think also, probably what he was worried about was that he didn't really have anything to deal with the Scav. Since he's Offensive Talon, he doesn't actually, you know, take those +2 hits very well. My guess would be if he didn't go into Talon immediately versus the Escavalier, he probably didn't have a fire move. At least not one that could KO the Escav from full. And I'm thinking he didn't want to lose his Talonflame since that was his best way to revenge kill both the Celebi and the Salazzle. Otherwise, he's just getting outsped by them. And that would give them a lot more presence over the game. So I think that's why he wanted to keep the Talon early. Especially if it's offensive, it definitely drops to knock. But that's the first game. Let's go to the next one. We got here Roger Blutar versus Team Charm. Now, this was also a game that I think this was maybe a little bit more split. I was thinking that Roger would be the winner in this game, like coming into it. Team Charm was like overwhelmingly ranked last in the PR for NU. I couldn't really give you a great reason why, but it is what it is. And here we see a pretty standardish looking matchup. We see kind of a bulkier offense build from Team Charm going into just hard stall. Hard stall. And I didn't watch the entirety of this game, but oh, this one is tragic. This is a tragic game. So anyhow, there's a Silvally here. Let's see what kind of Silvally it is. And I think it'll be a Silvally form that we actually do see a good bit more going forward. Anyhow, we see Bronzong versus Garbodor lead into 2 doubles. Garbodor is pretty easy, or not Garbodor, Guzzlord's pretty easy to double in versus the Xatu. It's expected to come in to block rocks from the Bronzong. And we also see an early Flame Body. It shouldn't matter at all, because the Scraftingtons does have the Shed Skin. And look, I'm going to be honest, there's not a whole lot to comment here. Most of this game is going to just be a matter of positioning. If we're looking at, I'm going to just like ignore what's happening right now until anything interesting happens. But if we're looking at the teams, right, there is a win con for Team Charm to break this stall. I'm on his Toxicroak. If he is low kick, Mudsdale does not check it at all. No siree, not at all. That Mon is going to be blasted. And Garbodor, unless it's got a coverage move for it, which they don't always have, Toxicroak can actually set up versus it. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. So we see Garbodor take a huge hit from the Gunk early on. And we're also going to see the Xatu come in now, try to block a spike, get punished for it with the gunk, but nothing really actually happens there. But it is always Team Charm's best play. Like, you want to try your best to keep up your own team's longevity. And here's the Mon that I was going to say is going to be someone I think we see a lot more of. So Valley Ground. Now, Ground Valley here, it about to mess Roger's team up. So long as he predicts properly, this Mon will claim at least 1 KO, or at least a whole bunch of collateral damage. He did not predict right. That Mon did nothing. It did not get damage off on anything. But, do look at the matchup it has. It's actually like really looking good here. And I think that going forward, so Valley Ground is a pretty good option. Offensive ground types in NU I'm high on in general, be it Golurk, even like CV Mudsdale, Rock's Rhydon. There's still Valley Ground in there. I think they're pretty good because a lot of NU's switch-ins to ground types are pretty vulnerable to their coverage. If you're thinking like Celebi, Decidueye, Talonflame, they don't really fare too well into a lot of them. But obviously Team Charm is on a really heavy back foot early in this game. Losing at Valley Ground and getting absolutely no mileage out of it is really tragic, especially because what it could have done is gotten pressure on the Mudsdale, for instance, chipped it real hard for Toxicroak. And that would have made it so it doesn't matter if it's low kick or drain punch. You could just then boost up to +2 and then KO the following turn. It could have picked off the Articuno if he rock slided it instead of, unfortunately, mispredicting. So now, what is the win con? Well, it's still there. Essentially, he's got to get Toxicroak in on turns where it can just force some chip onto that Garbodor, and he's got to hope that chip sticks. Again, if we're assuming low kick here on the Toxicroak, he can't OHKO the Mudsdale if he's like Adamant Life Orb. I don't... Look, one, I don't remember anyhow, but two, I also just don't want to spoil anyway. But that Mon can just break through the Muds. It's the Garbodor he has to get rid of. Obviously, there's nothing on Roger's team that outspeeds it. I mean, I guess Articuno could, but Articuno's probably going to be like Freeze Dry, Roost, Heal Bell, and then, I mean, he could have Defog Blast. So it's hard to say whether that Articuno could actually like revenge kill the primetime Toxicroak here. We're gonna see a really good poison here under the Mudsdale. That just helps get it lower. Forces Roger to have to try to get a Wish Pass to it as well. And getting chip damage on it also means that that mod is in +2 range from Croak. Like Drain Punch even, I'm pretty sure KOs it from there. We're also gonna see the Guzzlord come out and get just a little bit of chip. It is looking like it's a bit bulkier of a Garbodor. I keep saying Garbodor. A little bit bulkier of a Guzzlord because that EQ did like 3. But getting chip on both the Garbodor and the Mudsdale. This is what a lot of us were... I say a lot of us like as if I was talking to anyone during this game happens. This is what a lot of people were saying in spectator chat as this game happened. At this point, it's like, it doesn't really matter whether Toxicroak is Drain Punch or Low Kick. The Mudsdale's weakened. The Garbodor's weakened. If that Mon gets to +2, there's a very good shot that Team Charm could win this game still. Now, it's a matter of still getting to +2, right? You gotta get a good turn to set up, and a lot of the Mons on Roger's team do not necessarily threaten a whole lot of damage. It's just they're not Mons you'd want to set up against. And we do, of course, see here that Articuno is defog, so we know it's full set at this point. And that does also kind of just give you a little bit more of a clue. Toxicroak can set up versus that. Freeze Dry will do a lot, but you can get to +2, and if you're Drain Punch, that's even better for you, of course, because it gives you a little bit of health. Now, okay, it's not that turn. There's a very depressing turn coming soon. We're going to see the Guzzlord come back in, and it's just going to faint to a Nightshade here. But nothing's happened yet. This is why I hate commenting over stall versus like anything. Sometimes these stall games go really quickly. Also, fun fact, it's not even a stall with the Quagsire. This man has literally crafted a stall team you could have had for the past several months, which is, I think, kind of interesting, because stall has been viewed as pretty mediocre, but as having maybe gained a good bit of power with the drop of Quagsire, and Rogers essentially said, nah, don't need it. We're just gonna see again, like, he's just, we're trying to see from Team Charm just him win the long game. I mean, when you're matched to the stall, a big part of it is obviously, again, outlasting your opponent if you have any means to do it. And he's at least got 2 Mons with Roost, so you can try to trade some power points from the other team with your own, so long as you're able to not be forced into those really passive exchanges. Now here, we again see another double. And we also unfortunately see the Mudstone get back to full, which is kind of rough. Again, we do know that if it's low kick Croak, there is that dirty, dirty roll. But he has to actually get to a point where he can set that up. So does it matter that he, you know, has the Mudstone at full? Yeah, it does. If we don't find a turn to set up with Croak, then it doesn't matter. And I'm actually going to turn this up to fast because this game is going too slowly for me and I don't have that much to say. All we are going to see for the next several turns, I'm pretty sure, is a whole bunch of exchanging of Roosts and Nightshades. Like, please, enlighten me. How do I make this entertaining? Oh, look, you switched again. Incredible. Good work, Team Charm. You're doing it. You switched. Oh, but we see a Toxic on the Talonflame. That's actually a little bit scary. I mean, you don't want like any of your mons to be losing their ability to stick around the game. So, that is like definitely good for Rodri, finding the turn to get that off. And yeah, so this is the turn. So we actually see the Xatu here. I'm gonna move this back to normal. We actually see that Xatu there. As Rodri says in chat, he actually told like a whole bunch of people, hey, by the way, in his team Discord, you know, this is the team I'm bringing, and I guess none of them caught that. So, now, does it really matter? No, he gets heal build, but it also means that this Bronzong can throw off Toxic so much more freely this game now, as a Xatu can't exist to bounce them, so you can force heal bells out of the Articuno. And that is a way to maybe get, you know, a permanent cripple on the Mudsdale eventually. And again, how do you beat stall? You force them to waste all of their resources. And this Articuno right now has also been forced into a really unfortunate loop where it's pretty much only allowed to use Roost and Heal Bell. And the Bronzong being Heavy Slam is really good for him here because he's able to force that damage onto the Articuno. We're going to also turn this back up to fast. I want to get to the point where the Toxicroak comes in. So here's where the Sword Stance happens. Because we saw this doesn't have Hurricane or any flying move. So Croak's able to SD versus it very freely. And Garbodor's chipped. If it's low kick, it kills Mudsdale. Also, yeah, didn't know if Gunk was a contact move. Mudsdale's also already kind of low. So that's pretty good. And we do see here that that is a low kick Croak. So he gets rid of the Articuno as well. This Croak is putting in so much work. He goes right back to the Mudsdale. It's actually a bit of a misplay from Roger, as we're going to see here. It's kind of a 50-50. But yeah, that mon yums up the low kick. Delicious, nutritious. Togedemaru weighs like half a pound. So it does not care about low kick all too much, even at +2. It's very fortunate. Let's see, look at that. Croak got the SD off, and look, we got through a whole bunch of Pokemon on each side so quickly. And, I mean, at this point, there's really not a whole lot that Rodri can do. If it's bulk up Scrafty, it's too low to ever get the bulk off it, as we see there, you know, can't win. And from here on out, I mean, can Togedemaru do anything? Yeah, we see Rodri say he has to hope for no EQ or body press. But because the Bronzong is Protect, this Togedemaru never gets to win. And I'm going to save you all the... I'm going to save you all the turns of this PowerPoint stall. Here it goes. Noom! So, Team Charm, that's 2 upsets in a row. This one was a bit more contended, to be fair, compared to Cashalos Hoenn game, but I still think, you know, person ranked last in a PR versus someone ranked closer to the middle of the pack, we can call that an upset. Now, this game. Oh, this game. This is unfortunately a game that I've already watched. I don't even know what to say at preview. Why does this team have 2 water types, a Togedemaru, and a Haunter? What is the point? I don't understand. Anyhow, let's get into the preview, I guess. I mean, series team looks pretty standard. Like, it's a standard balance that uses pretty shaky switch-ins to water types. So that Helios best be Scarf. Otherwise, Smash Blastoise just always beats it. I mean, even then, actually, Cashalos can KO Stoise. It's just that you have to be Scarf, and then get, I think you need previous chip to KO Stoise from full, or you need a good roll. I don't remember which it is, but that Stoise is looking really problematic this game. If Lisk is not Specs, it does not always KO it, which means that if it switches in on a Shell Smash, on Arceus then can Smash again. If he tanks the T-Bolt, he then sweeps from there. And there's nothing that Snowjinner can do about it. I just don't know what to make of on Arceus' team. And yeah, let's play this. We see a Clawitzer lead versus Drapion. We see an immediate switch. And we're about to see this Drapion put in mad work. Because, you know, Talonflame, he's just not scared. He just SDs up and then Okos the Clawitzer. And I guess it revealed to be Subtoxic Claw. That's my only guess to why it was lefties. And we see, oh yeah, by the way, it's Aqua Tail Drapion. Now it gets the burn here. If he did not get the burn, I'm pretty sure that this Drapion 6-0s. Just raw. Because then you can also knock the Stoi's White Herb. And that lets you KO with Heliolisk. Because it'll have the special defense drop. You know, such that just works as your previous chip at that point. Now Drapion's still putting in mad work, but because it's burned, it's not a threat. It just doesn't do enough with the +2 knock. And so we're going to see on Arceus freely boost with Blastoise here. And now we get the turn of hopes. What happens here? It is Scarf and can't KO. Yep, good set. And yeah, please tell me how Siri wins. 1. Alright. That's 1. Come on. Show me the 2. Yep, 2. Oh, there we go. 2. So, you know. This is not a good team. I'm going to be 100 with everyone here. This is a bad team. It is one of the most give me good matchup teams I have ever seen. And if he does not get that burn versus the Drapion, he actually just loses to it from lead. Which is kind of funny. It's really funny how both teams had one Mon that just kind of arbitrarily, or damn near arbitrarily, 6-0'd the opponent. And we saw it kind of come down to a little bit of luck which one got to do it. And yeah, next game. So this is one that I actually didn't watch. I did look at preview a little bit, but yeah. So Sambal has got, again, pretty standard just looking balanced build. You got the defensive core of like Mudsdale, Comfy, and then I guess we could throw a Scavalier in there. You got, you know, utility looking Talonflame there, probably just standard status move, attacking move, Roost U-turn. A Goodra of some kind. Team's overall a little slow, but it's not that bad. You got a 1-mon, you got Talonflame, which is like your general revenge killer. You got Celebi, which has at least enough speed. Goodra is a bit of a like more mid-speed tier breaker, so it's not that bad. And then you have this, which is again a little bit of matchup fish. I mean, kind of funny that I see another Musharna with Grassy Terrain support. Because we just saw, I think it was, oh, who was it? It was someone versus GW brought it in like seasonal or Swiss or something. They brought a full-on terrain team though. I just think it's kind of funny to see the Musharna here again. And then just the rest of the team is just kind of just power. You got probably offensive rocks, copper, power. Guzzlord, I mean if it's bulky, yeah, some power. Exploud, this mon has nothing but power. And then there's, well, Talonflame because it's a good mon. So, Raj leads pretty safe here, because there's not too much on the other team that threatens it. Unfortunately, he throws it out into the Mon that does threaten it immediately. You know, I said there's not too much that threatens it. I'm mostly just saying that this is probably like Brave Bird, and then if he really doesn't care too much, he can let it take the Wisp and just still throw rocks up versus it. Also, what does this Thwacky do? Are we knocking? No, we're U-turning. Are we getting burned immediately? No. We're getting Exploud in, though. And, I mean, if we're looking at Exploud versus Sabal's team, he doesn't have answers to it. Good night. Oh, never mind. It took 33. My bad. What the hell calc is that? Huh? We're AV, right? Ain't no way that takes that little unless we're AV. No. What in the hell did I just see? Or it's like Silk Scarf Explode? But I feel like you still have to be AV. Right? Also, we already see the para. It's actually kind of shit for Sensei Axu positioning-wise because this Goodra does not have good answers. So long as he predicts the turn on which Copper comes in and Fire Blasts it, this Goodra is claiming at least 1 KO. Okay, let's see, what does it get knocked? Okay, that was AV. I'm about to say there's no way that Mon takes 30 through from Boom Burst. Let's try AV. So we just see that. But this also means the Explode is once again, or now the Explode's like actually in a really good position. Because now it'll Oko, I think literally Oko, everything on Sabal's team. We're going to see the Talonflame come out versus the Mudsdale. Both Talonflames come out here. I think you just see a Brave Bird here. Yep. We're going to pray for a para. We don't get it, but we do U-turn. We need to Explode back in. So Explode claims a kill. I mean, at this point, anytime it comes in versus something slower than it, it should be picking up 1. And we actually said it's not even choice, so the Escavalier is also just going to die to a Fire Blast. Yeah, Sambal is in a real bad spot. He does have the Celebi here. Aura Sphere will do a good amount of Guzz, but doesn't KO it. Yeah. Oh, wasn't he? Yeah, I also realized there was no Life Orb recoil. Oh, but he has Recover. Well, they always have Recover. But I mean, maybe he could kind of force some weird turns. No, he doesn't even plot up on the Protect. I think he needed to there. Well, he needed to if you wanted to pick that off. But also, yes, do you have this burned? I feel like you always just go for the plot on the Protect. It's also unfortunate for Sabla because since he's not Lorb Celebi, I mean, he wouldn't have it anyway since he got knocked. But I don't think he threatens nearly as much damage on this Copper as he'd like to. Which kind of sucks. Also, this Copper is, I think, AV. Which means that he's just no rocks on this team. Which... Yo, this just used Endeavor. What the hell? Why is this an Endeavor Thwacky? Stop that. No. He's gonna... Are we going to Musharna? Nah, bring Guzzler back in. Look, I just want to see this Musharna combined up and win. I feel like it does at this point. Like, under terrain, what stops Musharna? The Celebi, I guess, could try to boost alongside it, but I mean, it's gonna have Psychic Aura Sphere as its 2 attacks, surely. So you don't break the Musharna ever, I don't think, unless you get a crit, like, immediately. And I think you're gonna get, like, 2 crits in a row. Yeah, I don't like how Sabal's positioned at this point. I think it's kind of lost. So Zelda comes back out here. I think, yeah, so here's the Musharna. Let's see, does it win? He goes into the Comfy. Your default Comfy, right? Ain't no damn way you stop. Oh. Is he sub-seed CM? Because that could maybe do something. There's the sub. So he's definitely sub-seed CM, but I don't think you do anything versus the Musharna, though. It's got too many boosts. He's gonna, I guess, try to stall it out of health for a little bit, which might work, because Musharna's got so much HP. I think you can actually constantly just sub up versus it. This is a very interesting exchange. How does this work out? The seed actually means that Sambal can always get back to full after subbing, which is really funny. But I'm pretty sure these Musharnas always run rest. So, yeah, you have to force it to sleep. And then you gotta boost up while it is asleep. He's only burned 4 subs, so it's not too bad. Yeah, he has to get up to +6/+6. And he has to get a crit at some point while his mod is asleep. How does this end up working out? Alright. It's back to sleep. Okay, yep. Still asleep. I see. Does the Comfy just never get a crit? The Comfy just never crits. Did he run out his Drainicus? No, he's... I mean, look, at the end of the day, you just gotta get one. And yep, he never got a single crit versus the Musharna. And I think now this has enough power points. Yeah, this does. And he ran out of subs as well. And then Musharna just wins. Well, okay, the Musharna actually doesn't win. Oh no, the replay's very upset. So yeah, here, let's go back to this point. So the Talonflame actually picks off the Musharna there. The Comfy was able to at least get it low enough through Leech Seed. And he was also able to... I guess this thing burned all its stored powers, yeah, so he was able to stall it with T-Flame a little longer with Roosts, as he just ate Moonblasts. So the Talonflame burns the Guzzlord, has to need a knock, that's not too bad. But you got a Roost here, and he probably always throws off Toxic? Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, I don't... Okay, I thought I saw sub there. The problem is this doesn't do anything, because you can't even plot up and win, because I'm pretty sure AV Copper will tank the Aura Sphere. There ain't no pretty sure, it just will tank the Aura Sphere. So what, are we gonna just try to see Sambal PP stall the Guzzlord? I don't think you can. I don't think that ever works. I don't think you have, especially since the Talonflame is poisoned, he's always going to be forced to go out into Celebi and just immediately get poisoned again. He does take out the Guzz here, so we go into what? Copper? Yeah, so Copper's going to come out. You got an Edge, or he's going to double into the Exploud here. As he Roosts. Okay, that is a pretty net negative turn. Goes back into the Copper. Yo, though, could this mon... Well, no, because Celebi never gets to set up. So it actually doesn't matter. And his Talonflame's poison damage is ticking up really high. He gets Explode back in. Yeah, I think you just end up needing to get it to where, yeah, that's gonna die to poison? No, it doesn't. But yeah, you just need Copper in versus this without it being at +2. And because it's a non-life orb Celebi... Oh, it actually does have rocks. What's the item, then? What? I mean, this can't break Copper anyway, so, you know. Oh, Chopple. Okay. It's essentially, it's basically the same thing as an AV in the context of this game here. Or at least the context of Celebi versus Copper. This is a very weird game. I want to move on and forget. Alright, here's the last game. TDK versus Devon. Now all I know is that this is a Silvally ground on TDK's team. And we see yet another case of Ground Valley versus opposing team going nutty. I don't think you need too much chip versus Vaporeon to 2-hit KO with, not 2-hit KO, to OHKO it with a +2 multi-attack. And then everything else on that team is obviously dropping as well. It's kind of just a game of positioning the breakers and seeing which one can do more first. You got like the breaker core kind of here of the Surf-Edged and the Silvally ground versus just Tauros, and seeing, okay, how much can Tauros do when faced with like potential flame bodies, potential effect spore BS, and then I mean even Vaporeon, which can tank a hit and scald you. Let's see how this goes. So 2DK loses off the Copper, is met with Gougy. That's a very free slam always. I mean, he didn't rock, I'm guessing, or he didn't hard Xatu because he just expected there's no way you rock versus Team Xatu. Also, that's already a heavy slam crit. This is a very offensive stealth rock Copper Raja if it's doing this much with slam naturally, because I'm pretty sure that this takes less from some of those Copper Raja sets. I might be misremembering my damage cogs. Regardless, though, the paralysis from Xatu ends up being really helpful, as he gets it on a good turn versus Copper, able to roost back up to full. Oh, is this gonna be... Yeah, is it just 2 Vapo balances? This game's gonna take forever to get through. I mean, yeah, this is just going to be who positions Breaker better and who keeps their team alive longer with the Vaporeon. Oh no. Yeah, this is gonna be just a lot of switching around for a while, isn't it? I don't even know if you're Devon, like, what the hell do you get this Tauros in versus? My guess would be you try to get it in versus the Copper on a turn that it passes, or not passes, but on the turn it receives a Wish. We see the Surf-Edge come in now. Devon's team does not have great Surf-Edge dancers. And the Diancie gets CC'd immediately as it comes in. Oh no. He's gonna double there. I don't know if that's CB damage from the fetch or not. I just, again, I don't remember the calc, man. It's not my fault. The Dancing being low is good though. It means you can knock pretty freely now. Now, here we see Devon with his breaker, and let's see how much mileage you can get out of it. So he's going to CC a Vileplume. Yep, that's unhelpful. And you obviously got to immediately switch out because the Vileplume's just going to kill you. And we also see a really good double from TDK here, bringing in his Surfetched, and because the Diancie is super low, it can't take another CC. And now if this is CB, knock is now literally being clicked for the rest of this game. He goes into the... his whole team is just named after random stocks. He does go into the Talonflame versus the Tauros. Doesn't get a Flame Body Burn, which kind of sucks. And we're going to see if Vaporeon try to pass a Wish out to the Tauros again, because we're just trying to, if we're Devon, position our Tauros in a way that it can get a kill. Unfortunately, you do have to actually get reads on when the Plume comes in. Now, he gets a really good one there. And a Plume low, maybe you do something? He avoids another burn. So Devon is like in a really good spot. He got rid of one of the potential status mods. If his Tauros can get past Vileplume somehow, which is annoying for him to try to do because this did just get a Wish past it. But he can still do something. And here's the Valley Ground. Getting it onto the Dragalge comes in. And we saw in the first game, the coverage this mon gets is not bad. And he has to use here for free because he knows this, I think it was, yeah, the Dragalge. It's not staying in. And yeah, what do you have that beats this? Ah, you have Super Fang on Token of Mario. Yeah, so Valley Ground is... look, it only killed 2 things, but I think that's all it really needed to do. I mean, also Fetch doesn't die to 1 hit from the Tauros, so he can bring it in versus this thing, force it out, and claim kills. I mean, at this point, it's just kind of a game of trading sacks. Oh, well, yeah, he gets the pair there, so he wins. Yeah, at this point, Surfetch clicks CC, well, not twice, because Dragalge's at full. But, yeah, this is a pretty arbitrary game for TDK to win from here. Paralyzed Tauros is not actually a threat. And he's just going to keep spamming out Sludge Bombs to try to make sure that this is in range of an eventual CC from the Surfetched. So, yeah. So Tauros comes back in, he immediately switches again, but it does not matter. And here's Surfetched. Also, at this point, he could also just pick the Tauros off with First Impression, so... yeah. That's the last game. Wow. So, what are some things that we saw overall in these replays? Well, for starters, so Valley Ground is a Pokemon people are willing to give a little bit more run. I think we saw in both the games that was used that at least its on-paper matchup is quite good. I mean, you get Edgequake coverage with an incredibly dirty stab attack. It lets you kind of muscle past a lot of the blanket physical walls, things like Vileplume, Vaporeon, for instance. Those aren't really too good at taking you on. And kind of like Golurk, you're an offensive ground type that has a way of messing up a lot of the checks to ground types. You think like Talonflame, that doesn't want to get rock slided. Rotom-Mow. Flame Charge is actually pretty good there, and it also prevents Rotom-Mow if it's Scarf from revenge killing you, which is pretty nice. Braviary as well, you know, contrary to Golurk, whose stab moves are walled by Braviary entirely, has to go for like Stone Edge. Rock Slide isn't stab, but same deal, right? You got Rock Slide. You can hit Braviary. So, I think that's a mod that we'll probably see a little bit more of going forward. This isn't a case with like... So if we think back to NUPL earlier this year, Life Orb Druddigon is a mon that in the early weeks got a little bit of use, a little bit of hype, and then it just died off. No one really uses it at all anymore. So Valley Ground I think is a little bit different, partly because it had already been getting a little bit of talk before the tournament. So I'm wondering, are we going to see it going forward? I think yes. You know, if you want, I did a stream multiple weeks ago where we actually built with Valley Ground, and it wasn't bad. I do think it's a pretty good mon. Something else I think is actually worth noting. Bronzong and Rotom-Mow usage in this first week is quite low. We didn't see a single Rotom-Mow, and in terms of the amount of Bronzongs, so here's one. 1 Bronzong, 0 Rotom-C. These are considered the 2 best mons in NU right now. But we're actually seeing a lot of defaulting. Also, I just stepped on something on the ground. Oh, it's some piece of an earbud. I'm sorry. But, seeing neither of the current S ranks brought at all is kind of surprising. Guzzlord continues to be used a whole bunch. That's not something I'm shocked by at all. The 2 dark types in this tier are phenomenal. Copper getting as much usage as it did is a little bit surprising. Stealth Rock Copper Raja at that. Because Stealth Rock Copper's been looked at for a good while now as kind of just not great. The coverage moves that you have to fit on it are like way too awkward. And while it's not necessarily meant to be a breaker like AV sets are, you still would like... It's viewed as like still an offensive Stealth Rock setter. So, since it can't get a lot of run out of its damage output in a lot of games, people have just not been wanting it, because defensively it's just a little bit worse than Bronzong. So teams usually been going to that. You can find your offensive power elsewhere, and you can find offensive power that does not end up being stifled in a vast majority of games. Especially with how high the usage of Talonflame is. Now, I mean, we could just see more Rock Slide on Rock's Copper to counteract that. It's been used before. It just makes your coverage overall really weird, because you really want Heat Crash that you could just get rid of Rotom, and also still checks things like, say, Celebi. Because if they're on Life Orb plot, yeah, Celebi is kind of dangerous for you if you don't have a move to hit it with immediately. And of course you would like also to have Power Whip, because yeah, do you really want your Copper Raja to be complete setup fodder for the somewhat rare nowadays Blastoise? Not really. Anyhow, I think these were some... This is a very interesting first week. We saw some crack, absolutely, some very whack teams. And we also just some more standard things. Like, I think Devon's got a pretty standard looking team. This is a pretty standard looking team. But then you get things like this versus pretty standard. And this versus really standard. 2 overall standard teams. I'd say, again, Quagsire, Stall, maybe a little not standard, but, you know, I don't think that team's outside the realm of possibility. And then just do some standard, but with mons you don't see too much, like Tyrantrum, for instance. Wow, the Steel type on most of these teams was either a Copper Raja or a Scavalier. Or a Togedemaru. Yo, Togedemaru got 2 uses? 2? Yeah, that's 2 too many. 3! Wait a minute, no! Yo, Togedemaru and a Scavalier got more uses than Bronzong. Oh no. Yo, thumbnails being a Togedemaru. I don't even care. Name the Togedemaru in any of these replays that did anything? You can't. None of these Togedemarus did jack. But I'm still making it a thumbnail, boys. Let's go. I hope y'all enjoyed this. There were definitely some points in these battles where there was really nothing at all to say about, but I think some of the mons that we're seeing getting used, kind of interesting. Again, these teams do kind of break the mold a little bit in terms of maybe what I think most people would perceive a standard-looking balance or bulky offense build to look like in NU right now. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, how those especially look going forward. Anyhow, again, I hope y'all enjoyed this, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.